Halloween, a night for fun, a night for costumes, a night for sweets. But in 1973, the idyllic image of Halloween was shattered in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. This is the story of that night. The story of a young life tragically cut short. The story of Gerald Turner, the man forever known as the Halloween Killer. Our journey takes us back to a time when the world felt a little safer. A time when children roamed freely, their biggest worry which house would give out the best candy. But that sense of security was about to be shaken to its core. This is not just a tale of murder. It's a chilling reminder that evil can lurk where we least expect it, even in the seemingly innocent celebration of Halloween. Gerald Turner, an unassuming name that would come to haunt the memories of Fond du Lac residents. He was a man who lived amongst them, seemingly ordinary, yet harboring a dark secret. A secret that would manifest in the most horrific way imaginable. What drove Turner to commit such a heinous act? What dark forces were at play within his mind? These are questions that continue to plague investigators and haunt the community to this day. As we delve deeper into Turner's psyche, we will uncover a past shrouded in mystery. A past that may hold the key to understanding the making of a monster. The news of Lisa Ann's murder spread through Fond du Lac like wildfire, leaving a trail of shock and disbelief in its wake. The idyllic image of their town, their safe haven, was irrevocably shattered. Parents clutched their children a little tighter, their hearts heavy with fear. The streets, once filled with the joyous laughter of trick-or-treaters, fell silent. The shadow of fear loomed large, casting a pall over the once vibrant community. In the wake of tragedy, Fond du Lac was forced to confront its vulnerability, to acknowledge that evil could touch even the most innocent among them. Gerald Turner's childhood was far from idyllic. Born and raised in Fond du Lac, he was known to be a quiet and withdrawn child. He struggled to make friends and often found himself on the outskirts of social circles. Some whispered that he displayed a disturbing fascination with death and violence, even at a young age. Teachers recalled him as a bright but troubled student, prone to fits of anger and outbursts of rage. There were reports of animal cruelty, a chilling precursor to the violence he would later inflict on a human being. The signs were there, but they went largely unnoticed, dismissed as the quirks of a peculiar child. As Turner grew older, his disturbing tendencies became more pronounced. He developed a reputation as a loner, someone who preferred his own company to that of others. His peers found him unsettling, and even adults sensed a darkness within him. It was as if a storm was brewing behind his quiet demeanor, waiting for the right moment to erupt. He spent hours alone in the woods surrounding Fond du Lac, lost in his own thoughts. What sinister fantasies played out in the solitude of those trees? What dark desires took root in the recesses of his mind? These questions would linger long after Turner's crimes came to light. Rumors of Turner's strange behavior began to circulate through the community. Parents warned their children to stay away from him, their fears fueled by a growing sense of unease. There were whispers of voyeurism, of Turner peering into windows and watching women undress. Each incident, though disturbing, was brushed aside as nothing more than the antics of a troubled young man. The police were called on several occasions, but each time they dismissed Turner as a nuisance rather than a threat. Little did they know that they were dealing with a ticking time bomb, a predator on the verge of striking. The system, it seemed, was failing to protect its most vulnerable members. Looking back, the warning signs were there all along. The cruelty to animals, the social isolation, the disturbing fascination with death. But these red flags were tragically ignored. dismissed as the eccentricities of a troubled youth. Perhaps if someone had intervened, if someone had recognized the danger lurking beneath Turner's quiet exterior, Lisa Ann's fate might have been different. But hindsight, as they say, is 20/20. And so, Gerald Turner was left to his own devices, free to nurture the darkness that festered within him. His descent into madness continued unabated, culminating in a night of unimaginable horror that would forever scar the town of Fond du Lac. In the years leading up to the murder, Turner's behavior became increasingly erratic. He drifted from job to job, unable to hold down steady employment. His interactions with others were marked by outbursts of anger and fits of rage. He was a powder keg waiting to explode, and on Halloween night 1973, the fuse was lit. The details of that fateful night will be explored in the next act, as we delve into the events that led to the brutal murder of 9-year-old Lisa Ann French. Brace yourself, for what you are about to hear is not for the faint of heart. The sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the quiet streets of Fond du Lac. It was Halloween night, 1973, and the air was alive with anticipation. Children, dressed in their finest costumes, eagerly awaited the moment they could knock on doors and shout, "Trick or treat." Among them was 9-year-old Lisa Ann French, her infectious laughter echoing through the crisp autumn air. Lisa Ann, dressed as a witch, skipped ahead of her friends, her orange plastic pumpkin bucket swinging by her side. She was a bright and bubbly child, adored by her family and friends. Her parents, filled with a sense of security that permeated their small town, allowed Lisa Ann to go trick-or-treating with her friends, a decision they would later come to regret. As Lisa Ann approached a house at the edge of her neighborhood, a man stepped out from the shadows. It was Gerald Turner. What possessed him to choose that moment, to target that innocent child, remains a chilling mystery. Did he spot her earlier that day? Had he been watching her, waiting for the opportune moment to strike? Lisa Ann, unaware of the danger lurking before her, likely flashed her infectious smile at Turner as she approached his doorstep. She held out her pumpkin bucket, her voice a cheerful chirp as she uttered the familiar phrase, "Trick or treat." Turner's response, if there was one, remains unknown. What is known is that this innocent encounter would have devastating consequences. Section 3. The abduction. Witnesses later reported seeing Lisa Ann getting into a car with a man matching Turner's description. Whether she was coerced, tricked, or lured remains unclear. The image of that small, costumed figure disappearing into the approaching darkness would forever haunt the witnesses and the community. The alarm was raised when Lisa Ann failed to return home that evening. Her worried parents, initially dismissing her absence as a child's forgetfulness, soon realized the gravity of the situation. As minutes turned to hours, a frantic search began, neighbors joining forces with the local police, their collective hope fading with each passing moment. Section 4. A gruesome discovery. The following morning, the unthinkable became a horrifying reality. Lisa Ann's body was discovered in a ditch on the outskirts of Fond du Lac. Her costume was torn, her lifeless eyes staring blankly at the unforgiving sky. The innocence of Halloween lay shattered alongside her. The news of Lisa Ann's murder ripped through Fond du Lac like a shockwave, leaving a community reeling in shock and disbelief. This quiet town, where children played freely and neighbors looked out for one another, had been violated in the most horrific way imaginable. Section 5. Terror grips Fond du Lac. Fear, raw and visceral, spread like wildfire. Parents clutched their children close, no longer able to view the world through the same lens of innocence. The boogeyman, once a figure of bedtime stories, had become all too real. The hunt for Lisa Ann's killer became paramount. Every resource was poured into the investigation. Every lead followed with a desperate urgency. The community, united in grief and anger, demanded justice for their fallen angel. The clock was ticking, and the pressure mounted to find the monster who had committed this unspeakable crime. Fond du Lac, once a picture of Midwestern tranquility, transformed into a community gripped by fear. The brutal murder of Lisa Ann French had shattered the town's innocence. The streets, usually bustling with children playing, stood eerily deserted. Parents kept their children indoors, their laughter replaced by hushed whispers and anxious glances. The police station, usually a place of quiet routine, overflowed with activity. Detectives worked around the clock, following every lead, however insignificant it seemed. The pressure was immense. The weight of a grieving community, desperate for answers, rested on their shoulders. Days turned into weeks, and the initial flurry of tips and leads dwindled to a trickle. The investigation, hampered by the lack of technology available at the time, seemed to be hitting dead ends at every turn. Frustration grew, both within the police force and the community. Every resident became a suspect in the eyes of their neighbors. Whispers followed people down the street, accusing glances exchanged in the supermarket aisles. The fear, once a shared burden, began to sow seeds of distrust and suspicion within the community. Just as despair threatened to engulf the town, a glimmer of hope emerged from an unexpected source. A witness, initially too frightened to come forward, contacted the police with crucial information. They had seen a man, matching Turner's description, lurking near the spot where Lisa Ann was last seen alive. This single piece of information breathed new life into the investigation. Detectives, reinvigorated by this potential breakthrough, intensified their efforts, focusing their attention on Gerald Turner. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place. Armed with this new lead, detectives began to piece together Gerald Turner's movements on that fateful Halloween night. They discovered that he had been absent from his usual haunts that evening, his whereabouts unaccounted for during the crucial hours when Lisa Ann vanished. Further investigation revealed that Turner had a history of troubling behavior. Witnesses came forward, recalling incidents of voyeurism, aggression, and a disturbing fascination with young girls. The net was closing in on Gerald Turner, the shadow of suspicion growing darker with each passing day. The final nail in Turner's coffin came in the form of forensic evidence. Fibers found on Lisa Ann's clothing matched those from a blanket discovered in Turner's possession. This, combined with the mounting circumstantial evidence and witness testimonies, painted a damning picture of guilt. On February 14, 1974, Gerald Turner was arrested for the murder of Lisa Ann French. The news, met with a mixture of relief and grim satisfaction, spread through Fond du Lac like wildfire. The boogeyman had been unmasked, his reign of terror brought to an end. But for Lisa Ann's family and a community forever scarred, the road to healing was only just beginning. The trial of Gerald Turner, the man accused of snatching the life of young Lisa Ann French on Halloween night, became the focal point of Fond du Lac and beyond. As the courtroom doors swung open, the weight of the town's grief and desperate need for justice pressed down on the proceedings. Every hushed whisper, every camera flash, amplified the tension that crackled in the air. Turner, a solitary figure at the defense table, sat under the intense scrutiny of the jurors, the community, and the grieving family of Lisa Ann. The once unremarkable man was now the embodiment of evil in the eyes of many. His demeanor, a chilling blend of detachment and defiance, did little to sway public opinion. Section 2. The prosecution's case. Piece by piece, the prosecution meticulously laid out their case. They wove a tapestry of damning evidence, each thread tightening the noose around Gerald Turner. The forensic experts took the stand, detailing the fiber analysis that linked Turner to the crime scene, their testimonies delivered with scientific precision. Witness accounts, though often tinged with fear and uncertainty, corroborated the timeline of Lisa Ann's disappearance and placed Turner in the vicinity of the abduction. The prosecution, with unwavering resolve, presented a narrative of a calculated and heinous act, their words echoing the community's demand for justice. Section 3. A community divided. As the trial progressed, the community of Fond du Lac found itself grappling with a maelstrom of emotions. The collective grief over Lisa Ann's loss, the yearning for resolution, and the unsettling possibility of Turner's innocence swirled within their hearts. The courtroom became a microcosm of their fractured emotional state. Some clung to the hope that the justice system would prevail, that Turner would be held accountable for his alleged crimes. Others, haunted by the possibility of a miscarriage of justice, grappled with the weight of condemning a man without absolute certainty. The trial, meant to bring closure, instead exposed the raw nerves of a community struggling to heal. Section 4. The verdict. After weeks of agonizing testimony and deliberation, the jury reached a verdict. The tension in the courtroom was almost unbearable as the foreman rose to deliver the news that would determine Gerald Turner's fate. The silence was deafening, every breath held captive in the anticipation. Guilty. The word, heavy with gravity, echoed through the silent courtroom. Gerald Turner, the man who had haunted the nightmares of Fond du Lac, was found guilty of the murder of Lisa Ann French. A collective gasp, a mixture of relief and sorrow, rippled through the room. Section 5. Justice for Lisa Ann. While the guilty verdict provided a sense of closure for some, it could never truly erase the pain and loss inflicted upon Lisa Ann's family and the community. The shadow of that Halloween night, forever etched in their collective memory, served as a chilling reminder of the fragility of innocence and the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface. Gerald Turner was sentenced to life in prison, his freedom stripped away as punishment for his heinous crime. Yet, the question lingered. Did this verdict truly represent justice for Lisa Ann? Could any sentence truly compensate for the theft of a young life, for the indelible mark left on a community forever changed? Section 1. A monster behind bars. Life behind bars became Gerald Turner's reality. The man who once terrorized the streets of Fond du Lac was now confined to a cell, his freedom a distant memory. Decades passed, seasons turned, and with each passing year, the memory of Lisa Ann French and the horror she endured faded further into the background for many. But for those most deeply affected, Lisa Ann's family, the witnesses, the investigators, the scars remained. The trauma of that Halloween night continued to cast a long shadow, a chilling reminder of the darkness that had visited their town and the fragility of peace. As the years turned into decades, a new battle began. Gerald Turner, now an aging inmate, became eligible for parole. The prospect of his release sent shockwaves through Fond du Lac, ripping open old wounds and reigniting fears that had long been suppressed. The community, united once more by a shared sense of dread, rallied to ensure that Turner remained behind bars. Petitions were signed, letters written to parole boards, voices raised in protest. They argued that a man capable of such unspeakable cruelty could never truly be rehabilitated, that his release would pose an unacceptable risk to society. The fight to keep Turner incarcerated became a grim ritual, repeated every time he became eligible for parole. Each hearing reopened old wounds, forcing the community to relive the nightmare of Lisa Ann's murder and confront the possibility that the man who haunted their past might yet return to haunt their present. The passage of time did little to diminish the fear he instilled. Parents, now grandparents, shared their anxieties with younger generations, ensuring that the memory of Lisa Ann French and the importance of vigilance lived on. The town, forever marked by tragedy, remained on guard, determined to protect its own. Despite their unwavering efforts, the specter of Turner's release loomed large. The legal system, bound by rules and regulations, offered no guarantees. Each denied parole application brought a wave of relief, a temporary reprieve from the fear that gripped their hearts. The uncertainty took its toll. The emotional burden of constantly reliving the past, of fighting to keep their nightmare from resurfacing, weighed heavily on the community. Yet, they refused to give up hope, their resolve fueled by the memory of Lisa Ann and their unwavering belief that some crimes are simply too monstrous to forgive. The chilling tale of Gerald Turner, the Halloween killer, continues to cast a long shadow over Fond du Lac. Even behind bars, his presence is felt, a chilling reminder of the darkness that humanity is capable of. His crimes, forever etched in the annals of the town's history, serve as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of innocence and the enduring impact of trauma. Lisa Ann French, though tragically taken, is not forgotten. Her memory lives on, not only in the hearts of those who loved her, but in the spirit of a community that refused to be defined by darkness. Her story, a chilling testament to the enduring power of hope and resilience, serves as a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable tragedy, the human spirit can endure. Gerald Turner's horrific actions on Halloween night 1973 left an indelible scar on Fond du Lac. The idyllic image of trick-or-treating, the innocence of childhood, the very fabric of community trust, all were shattered, leaving behind a chilling legacy of fear and unease. This quiet Wisconsin town became synonymous with a darkness that no amount of time could erase. Despite the guilty verdict and Turner's continued confinement, a sense of unease lingers. The question of why continues to haunt those touched by this tragedy. What combination of factors, what internal demons could drive a man to commit such an unspeakable act? These are questions that linger, their answers elusive, perhaps forever locked away in the recesses of a disturbed mind. While the legal battle to keep Turner incarcerated may be over, the fight for true justice continues. It's a fight waged not in courtrooms, but in the hearts and minds of those forever marked by the events of that Halloween night. It's a fight to honor Lisa Ann's memory by safeguarding innocence, supporting victims, and remaining vigilant against the darkness that can lurk even in the most ordinary of places. The story of the Halloween killer stands as a stark reminder of the fragility of life, the ever-present potential for evil, and the importance of vigilance and community. It's a story that compels us to confront the darkness, to cherish the preciousness of innocence, and to strive for a world where such tragedies are not relegated to history, but consigned to the realm of our darkest fears. Join us in making a difference. Support local victim advocacy groups, participate in community watch programs, and help create a safer environment for all. Together we can ensure that the memory of Lisa Ann and others like her is honored through action and vigilance.